many eons ago, I sat with the founder, Mr. Olajide, and he obviously had an idea about what he wanted to do, as most entrepreneurs do, but didn't know how to put together the right document to be able to go out and attract that financing. So we sat together, worked through his business plan, strategic objectives for Timbuktu, put together a document, and now with that document, Mr. Olajide was able to go out to his immediate circle, and we were able to begin to approach institutions for financing. The key thing for any investor, whether it's high net worth in your own network of individuals or it's an institution, they want to know when they put their money in, how they're going to get it out of the investment, and when that money is going in, what is it going in to achieve? And working with a business like Timbuktu, we're able to sort of sit down and say, okay, this is what the money needs to be employed towards, and this is what we can come out with on the other end. So that's the kind of generic service that we provide, which is not just fundraising, but thinking through the entrepreneur's plans, the strategy, how the corporation is going to develop, and next steps once the money gets in, because fundraising is just one milestone and the work really starts after that. Well, I mean, in both cases, investors are always wary of startups. So, is it going to work? There's no track record, there's nothing to show. And that's where we sort of go into asking the investors to look behind those startups, into the management and the people that are running that company, how they're starting it up, the track records that they have. So always startups are always a fear factor for investors, because as there's a statistic that says that probably 90% of startups fail within the first year, which is quite a high statistic. So, and institutions know that. In terms of what was attractive for the different companies, in Timbuktu's case, especially with the high net worth individuals that came on board, it was the excitement of being able to create something new that will disrupt the media industry in Nigeria, and I think we all know that that's happening anyway, so I won't delve too much into that. So that excitement that, okay, a media group, first product, the newspaper, but much else after that. And of course, backing an entrepreneur like Mr. Olajide was also attractive to those investors. On the institutional side, when they looked at what their funds would be deployed towards, which was mainly towards procuring equipment, and how it was like no other kind of printing equipment that's currently in the country, and the quality that will come to it. And in fact, one of the investors, institutional at the time, I remember him saying, "Well, if our ads could come out the way that you seem to be suggesting they'll come out, that alone does a lot for the industry. We see the market potential." So seeing the market potential there was a key thing. With impact, social.
Yes.
There was a huge social aspect to it. Developing the social infrastructure, and seeing the opportunity that even does in terms of you. And I should take a step back actually and say what impact is. Impact is a building components factory. It produces prefabricated panels for the rollout of buildings. Our chief aim when we were working on impact was looking at how we could roll out affordable housing in a quick and cost-efficient manner. Because if you use traditional materials and traditional methods, it's very difficult to get a house in under $10,000, which is what we're working with products out of the panels that are produced by IBS. The first engagement that IBS, which is also a startup, has been able to secure has been in the rollout of some social infrastructure in the middle belt of Nigeria. We're currently working on rolling out about 600 classrooms. 600 classrooms in the middle belt, and it's quite a large pioneering project for impact. So market potential, but easily social. The supply of microfinance funding into the market is about 10% of the demand for microfinance funds. The demand for microfinance funds, that from the study that we've estimated within Nigeria, Ghana, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, is about 10 billion. All right. That $10 billion, currently there's only about $1 billion that's available across those nations. So that's one insight, that the opportunity is immense, and people really do need trade rather than just have aid. People want to be empowered, and that's why there's such a demand. People don't want to depend on handouts. People want to be micro-entrepreneurs and fend for themselves. Another huge thing that sort of jumped out, and that's already sort of making the rounds in the sector, is that technology is going to be such a tool to improve, increase outreach, and enable microfinance institutions to operate in a more sustainable manner, to increase their outreach, especially when we look at microfinance in West Africa. If we compare it to say India, you find that most of the microfinance institutions tend to conduct individual lending, and a lot of that, especially if you look at the southern part of Nigeria, a lot of that is into SME companies, which is different from when you're providing microfinance loans to micro entrepreneurs. But you find that because there's so much concentration, and rightly so for them, on sort of more urban areas because of cost efficiency, they end up focusing more on SMEs. With technology, there'll be that ability to reach not just the urban poor, but also the rural poor. So I see that the opportunity for technology to turn this sector around is immense. Number 3, in terms of huge insights, is that before the study, I was one of those that sort of said, well, it's a bit difficult to do group lending in Nigeria. There are all kinds of socio-cultural issues. When you look at Lagos, people are, when you look at the small communities, people have come from all over Nigeria. Who really wants to be liable for their neighbor's debt? Whereas in India, when I took a trip to India to study some of the institutions, you see that there, because there's not as much migration as you have here, so the communities are mostly homogeneous, and so they sort of know each other a bit more, and so group lending, taking the liability for another person's loan, is not such a big deal. It can be done in Nigeria. That's one of the things that jumped out at me from the study. It's just that we just need to find new modes for that to happen. It will be done in different ways. There can be group liability, and indeed already there's what I call association lending, where the microfinance banks lend to associations, but not group in the sense that we see over there, but in India. But for sure, it's something that can help to bring down the cost structure of the microfinance institution. So along with technology, I see that kind of business model, obviously adapted for our socio-cultural issues here in Nigeria, really extending the outreach of the microfinance institutions in West Africa.
So I've seen things now from the point of view of the microfinance institutions and what they can benefit. Can you give us a sense of, for the people that invest in the fund, what their returns could be?